In an era before computers took over our engines, American automakers unleashed street-legal monsters that could pin you to your seat. The 1970s, when gasoline flowed cheap and Detroit answered with raw, unbridled horsepower. These weren't just cars. They were weapons wrapped in steel and chrome that could embarrass many modern machines. Forget the Malaise-era myths. These quarter-mile killers had the time slips to prove their dominance. Number 15. 1970. Buick GSX. Stage 1. Kicking off our list at number 15 is a machine that proved Buick wasn't just your grandfather's luxury car. The 1970 Buick GSX Stage 1 looked like business on the outside. But under that sculpted hood lurked something wicked. A 455 cubic inch V8 monster that generated 360 horsepower and an earth-moving 510 pound-foot of torque. That's not a typo. 510 pound-feet of torque from the factory in 1970. What made the GSX Stage 1 special wasn't just its brutal engine. It was how Buick engineers packaged that power. The Stage 1 package included a high-performance camshaft, larger valves, and a specially tuned carburetor that transformed this luxury muscle car into a stoplight predator. Performance-wise, the GSX Stage 1 could rocket from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 5.5 seconds and demolish the quarter mile in 13.4 seconds at 106 miles per hour. Those numbers weren't just impressive for 1970. They're still respectable today. For comparison, that's quicker than a modern Volkswagen GTI from a car built when Nixon was president. Buick only made 400 GSX models in 1970, and of those, just 278 came with the Stage 1 package. That makes this one of the rarest muscle cars on our list, and certainly one of the most underrated. While Chevelle SOs and Hemi Cudas got all the magazine covers, the GSX Stage 1 was quietly outrunning most of them at the drag strip. What's truly remarkable is how the GSX delivered this performance without sacrificing Buick's luxury DNA. Inside, drivers enjoyed comfortable bucket seats, a full complement of gauges and refinement that muscle cars from other divisions could only dream about. It wasn't just quick. It was quick with class. Number 14. 1973. Pontiac Firebird Trans Am SD 455. By 1973, the muscle car era was supposedly dead. Emissions regulations were strangling performance, insurance companies were punishing horsepower, and the oil crisis was looming on the horizon. Nobody told Pontiac, though. The 1973 Trans Am SD455 wasn't just a last gasp. It was a defiant roar against the dying of the light. Under the Shaker hood scoop sat the legendary Super Duty 455 cubic inch V8. Officially rated at a modest 290 horsepower, the SD455 was a purpose-built performance engine with forged pistons, special cylinder heads, and a reinforced bottom end. It was essentially a race engine with license plates. While other manufacturers were retreating from performance, Pontiac's engineers were finding clever ways to maintain it. The SD455 used provisions like a high-flow exhaust system and advanced combustion chamber design to deliver power while still meeting emissions requirements, a remarkable feat of engineering for the time. In stock form, the Trans Am SD455 could hit 60 miles per hour in just 5.4 seconds and run the quarter mile in 13.9 seconds at 103 miles per hour. For 1973, these were numbers that seemed impossible. Most competitors had been neutered down to 14 or 15-second quarter-mile times. But the Trans Am was still providing genuine muscle car performance. Only 252 Trans Ams received the SD455 engine in 1973, making this not just one of the quickest muscle cars of the decade, but also one of the rarest. Today, these cars command six-figure prices at auction, a testament to both their performance and their historical significance as one of the last true muscle cars of the original era. The 73 Trans Am SD 455 proved that even in the darkest days, American performance could still shine bright. It wasn't just a muscle car. It was a statement of defiance. Number 13. 1970. Oldsmobile 442 W30. Number 13 on our countdown shatters the myth that Oldsmobile was just about luxury cruisers. The 1970 Oldsmobile 442 W30 was a legitimate street warrior, packing one of the most underrated power plants of the muscle car era, the mighty 455 cubic inch rocket V8. In W30 form, this engine delivered 370 horsepower and a staggering 500 pound-feet of torque, numbers that could humble many of its more celebrated competitors. The W30 package wasn't just an engine, though. It was a comprehensive performance upgrade that included a fiberglass hood with functional air scoops, aluminum intake manifold, special camshaft, and a host of other race-inspired modifications. What made the 442 W30 truly special was its balance. Unlike some muscle cars that were essentially drag racers with license plates, the 442 delivered its blistering acceleration alongside impressive handling and braking, a complete performance package. With a skilled driver behind the wheel, the 442 W30 could hit 60 miles per hour in just 5.7 seconds and blast through the quarter mile in 13.7 seconds at 104 miles per hour. These weren't just impressive times for an Oldsmobile, they were impressive times, period. Only 262 four-speed W30 convertibles were built in 1970, making certain configurations of this muscle car among the most valuable today. But beyond its rarity, it's the dual personality nature of the 442 W30 that makes it special. Civilized when you wanted it to be, ferocious when you didn't. The 442 name originally stood for 4-barrel carburetor, 4-speed transmission, and 2 exhausts. By 1970, that meaning had been largely forgotten, but the performance heritage remained intact. The W30 version represented Oldsmobile's most potent expression of muscle car philosophy, proof that you could have your luxury and your quarter-mile times too. Number 12. 1971. Plymouth Roadrunner 440+6. Number 12 on our list proves that sometimes cubic inches matter more than badges or brand prestige. The 1971 Plymouth Roadrunner 440+6 wasn't the most expensive muscle car of its day, but on the street, where it counted, few cars could touch it. The 440+6 designation referred to the massive 440 cubic inch V8, topped with 3 2-barrel carburetors. Yes, 6 barrels of fuel-gulping fury that produced 385 horsepower and 490 pound-feet of torque. This wasn't Plymouth's top engine. That would be the legendary 426 Hemi. But it was actually quicker in real-world driving because it was easier to launch and maintain. In an era when muscle cars were getting increasingly luxurious and expensive, the Roadrunner stayed true to its budget performance roots. It was named after the cartoon character for a reason. It was quick, nimble, and didn't take itself too seriously. Except when the light turned green. A properly driven 71 Roadrunner 440+6 could hit 60 miles per hour in 5.1 seconds and charge through the quarter mile in 13.5 seconds at 106 miles per hour. Those numbers put it among the quickest production cars of the entire decade, not just muscle cars. The 71 model was significant because it represented the last hurrah of unfettered muscle car performance before compression ratios were lowered and power began to drop across the industry. With its fuselage styling, the 71 Roadrunner looked faster and more modern than its boxy predecessor, and in 440+6 form, it had the muscle to back up its sleek appearance. While Plymouth built over 14,000 Roadrunners in 1971, only a fraction came with the 440 plus 6 powertrain, making this configuration both powerful and rare. For those in the know, this was the sweet spot of Mopar performance. Almost as quick as a Hemi, but far more streetable and significantly less expensive. The Roadrunner 440 plus 6 wasn't about prestige or status. It was about raw, accessible performance, the essence of what made muscle cars so revolutionary in the first place. Number 11. 1970. Ford Torino Cobra 429 Super Cobra Jet. At number 11, we find a blue oval beast that often gets overshadowed by its Mustang cousins. The 1970 Ford Torino Cobra, packing the devastating 429 Super Cobra jet engine, was Ford's heavyweight contender in the muscle car wars, and it came with knockout power. The 429 Super Cobra jet wasn't just a big engine. It was a purpose-built powerhouse featuring a forged crankshaft, 4-bolt main caps, and special connecting rods designed specifically for drag racing punishment. Officially rated at 375 horsepower, most experts agree this number was deliberately underrated to keep insurance companies at bay. The real output was likely closer to 410 to 420 horsepower, with torque figures that could twist the chassis like a pretzel. What made the Torino Cobra special was its combination of size and speed. This wasn't a compact pony car. It was a mid-size bruiser with a massive engine bay that could swallow that big block 429 with room to spare. The drag pack option added an engine oil cooler, a 4.3 to 1 rear axle ratio with a Detroit locker differential, and made the Torino a legitimate factory drag car. Performance was staggering. The Torino Cobra Super Cobra Jet could hit 60 miles per hour in just 5.0 seconds and demolish the quarter mile in 13.3 seconds at 107 miles per hour. These weren't just quick times for 1970. They would embarrass many performance cars built decades later. Ford only built about 7,675 Torino Cobras in 1970. And just a fraction of those came with the Super Cobra jet engine and drag pack. This relative rarity, combined with its somewhat understated appearance compared to wilder-looking muscle cars, has kept the Torino Cobra flying under the radar for decades. But those who know. This was one of Ford's baddest street machines ever. The Torino Cobra Super Cobra Jet represented Ford's commitment to winning at the drag strip, while still offering a comfortable, usable street car. It wasn't just about quarter-mile times. It was about bringing professional-level performance to the everyday driver. Number 10. 1970 Chevrolet Chevelle SS 454 LS6. Breaking into our top 10 is perhaps the most iconic muscle car of the entire 1970s. The 1970 Chevrolet Chevelle SS454 with the legendary LS6 engine option. If there's one car that perfectly encapsulates the peak of the muscle car era, this is it. Under the cowl induction hood sat the mighty LS. 6'4" 54 cubic inch V8, officially rated at 450 horsepower and 500 pound-feet of torque. Let that sink in. 450 horsepower in 1970 from the factory, with a warranty. This wasn't just Chevrolet's most powerful production engine. It was the most powerful engine offered in any production car up to that time. The LS6 wasn't just about displacement. It featured 11.2 5-to-1 compression, a solid lifter camshaft, aluminum intake manifold, and giant 780 cubic feet per minute Holley carburetor. This was essentially a race engine that somehow made it past GM's corporate suits and into dealership showrooms. On the drag strip, the Chevelle SS454 LS6 was a monster. 0 to 60 came in just 5.4 seconds, and the quarter mile flashed by in 13.1 seconds at 108 miles per hour. With slicks and some tuning, 12-second passes were easily within reach, performance that would embarrass many sports cars built decades later. The Chevelle SS 454 LS6 looked the part too, with its bold stripes, blacked-out grille, and aggressive stance. It wasn't trying to hide its intentions. This was a car built for one purpose: domination. Chevrolet built approximately 4,475 Chevelle with the LS6 engine, making it relatively rare but not unobtainable. Today, these cars command some of the highest prices in the muscle car world, often fetching well over $100,000 in top condition. The 1970 Chevelle SS 454 LS6 wasn't just a muscle car. It was the muscle car, the benchmark against which all others were measured. It represented the absolute peak of performance before emissions regulations and the fuel crisis changed everything. For many enthusiasts, this isn't just number 10 on our list, it's number 1 in their hearts. Number 9. 1970 Dodge Challenger RT426 Hemi. At number 9, we encounter Mopar royalty, the 1970 Dodge Challenger RT equipped with the legendary 426 Hemi. Late to the pony car party but dressed to kill, the Challenger made up for its tardy arrival with stunning looks and earth-shattering performance. The heart of this beast was the mythical 426 Hemi 5.8, nicknamed the Elephant Engine, for both its size and power. Officially rated at 425 horsepower, the Street Hemi was widely known to produce closer to 470 to 480 horsepower in stock form. Its hemispherical combustion chambers, dual Carter AFB 4-barrel carburetors, and solid lifter camshaft created an engine that could propel the Challenger from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 5.1 seconds and through the quarter mile in 13.2 seconds at 108 miles per hour. What made the Hemi Challenger special wasn't just straight-line speed. Buyers could equip their cars with the Track Pack option, which included a 4-speed manual transmission, Dana 60 rear end with 4.10 gears, and a Sure Grip limited slip differential. This wasn't just a muscle car. It was a complete performance package designed to dominate both street and strip. The Challenger's styling was as aggressive as its performance. With its long hood, short deck, wide stance, and available shaker hood scoop, the car had a visual presence that matched its mechanical prowess. Dodge also offered the Challenger in a rainbow of high-impact colors with names like Plum Crazy, Go Mango, and Top Banana, ensuring that Hemi Challengers not only went fast, but were impossible to ignore. Only 356 Challenger RTs were equipped with the 426 Hemi in 1970, making this one of the rarest production muscle cars of the era. This rarity, combined with its stunning performance and iconic status, has made the Hemi Challenger one of the most valuable and sought-after muscle cars today, with pristine examples fetching well over $200,000 at auction. The 1970 Challenger RT Hemi wasn't just a car. It was Dodge's statement that they might be late to the pony car wars, but they were bringing the biggest guns. Number 8. 1971 Ford Mustang Boss 351. Number 8 on our countdown proves that sometimes the less celebrated models pack the biggest punch. The 1971 Ford Mustang Boss 351 might not have the name recognition of its Boss 429 and Boss 302 predecessors. But when it came to real-world performance, this was arguably the quickest Mustang of the classic era. The Boss 351 was powered by, you guessed it, a 351 cubic inch Cleveland 5.8. But this was no ordinary small block. The Boss version featured a solid lifter camshaft, 11.0 to 1 compression ratio, aluminum intake manifold, and a massive 750 cubic feet per minute Autolite 4-barrel carburetor. The result was 330 horsepower and 370 pound-feet of torque, conservative numbers that most experts believe were significantly underrated. What made the Boss 351 special was its perfect combination of power and weight. While the 1971 Mustang had grown larger than previous generations, the Boss 351 was still lighter than big block competitors, giving it a power-to-weight ratio that translated to blistering acceleration. Contemporary road tests recorded 0 to 60 mph times of just 5.8 seconds and quarter-mile runs of 13.8 seconds at 104 mph. Car and Driver magazine called it the best balanced Mustang ever produced. High praise for a car that had to follow in the footsteps of legends. Ford only produced the Boss 351 for 1 year, with total production reaching just 1,806 units. This single-year status, combined with its exceptional performance, has made it one of the most collectible Mustangs from the early 1970s. The Boss 351 represented the last hurrah of the high-performance Mustang, before emissions regulations and the fuel crisis fundamentally changed the automotive landscape. It wasn't the most powerful or the most famous Mustang, but for those in the know, it represented the perfect balance of power, handling, and real-world usability. A fitting end to the first chapter of the Mustang performance story. Number 7. 1971. Plymouth GTX 440 Plus 6. Lucky number 7 on our list is another Mopar monster that proved the early 70s still had plenty of muscle to offer. The 1971 Plymouth GTX 440 Plus 6 combined luxury appointments with drag strip dominating performance in a package that could run with the best of them. Unlike its more affordable Roadrunner sibling, the GTX was Plymouth's gentleman's muscle car, offering more upscale features and comfort. But don't let the luxury fool you. With the 440 Plus 6 option, this was a street predator in a tailored suit. The 440 Plus 6 referred to the massive 440 cubic inch V8 topped with 3 two-barrel carburetors, a setup that produced 390 horsepower and 490 pound-feet of torque. While not quite as powerful as the legendary 426 Hemi, the 440 Plus 6 actually delivered better real-world performance for most drivers, thanks to its more tractable power delivery and lighter front end. With a skilled driver, the GTX 440 Plus 6 could hit 60 mph in just 5.0 seconds and charge through the quarter mile in 13.1 seconds at 107 mph. These were numbers that could embarrass many exotic sports cars of the era, and this from a full-size American muscle car with room for 5 passengers. The 1971 model was significant as it featured Plymouth's new fuselage styling, a sleeker, more modern look than the boxy design of earlier models. The combination of this fresh styling with massive performance made the GTX one of the most desirable Mopars of the period. Plymouth built only 2,942 GTX models in 1971. And just a small percentage of those came with the 440 Plus 6 option, making this a relatively rare muscle car. The triple carb setup was notoriously difficult to keep in tune, but when properly set up, it delivered a thrust that few production cars could match. The GTX 440 Plus 6 represented the perfect blend of luxury and performance, proof that you could have your cake and eat it too, as long as you had the budget for both the car and the fuel to feed those 3 hungry carburetors. Number 6. 1970. Pontiac GTO Judge Rom Air 4. Breaking into our top 6 is a car that combined outrageous looks with outrageous performance. The 1970 Pontiac GTO Judge, with the rare Ram Air 4 option, wasn't just quick. It was a statement on wheels, a declaration that Pontiac still ruled the muscle car roost. The Ram Air 4 400 cubic inch V8 was a special beast, featuring round port high-flow cylinder heads, a radical camshaft with 308/320 degrees of duration, 1.65 to 1 rocker arms, and the aluminum intake manifold. Though officially rated at just 370 horsepower, the Ram Air 4 actually produced closer to 410 to 420 horsepower in stock form. What made the Judge Ram Air 4 truly special was its complete performance package. It wasn't just about the engine. The car came with a functional hood scoop that forced cold air directly into the carburetor, a choice of close-ratio 4-speed manual or turbo-hydromatic 400 transmissions, and a heavy-duty suspension tuned for both straight-line acceleration and respectable handling. In the hands of a skilled driver, the Judge Ram Air 4 could hit 60 miles per hour in just 5.1 seconds and blitz the quarter mile in 13.0 seconds at 108 miles per hour, numbers that put it among the very quickest production cars of the entire decade. Pontiac built only 325 Judge Ram Air 4 hardtops in 1970, making this one of the rarest and most desirable GTOs ever produced. The Judge package itself was already eye-catching, with its bold stripes, rear spoiler, and unique badging, but the Ram Air 4's distinctive hood scoop made it clear this was something special even among judges. What's perhaps most impressive about the Judge Ram Air 4 is that it delivered this performance while still maintaining Pontiac's reputation for style and sophistication. This wasn't just a straight-line bruiser. It was a complete performance car that could handle curves as well as quarter miles, all while coddling passengers in one of the best-designed interiors of the muscle car era. The 1970 GTO Judge Ram Air 4 represented Pontiac's philosophy of balanced performance, not just raw power, but power delivered with poise, style, and a certain swagger that only Pontiac seemed to master. Number 5. 1970 Buick GSX Stage 2. Cracking our top 5 is a muscle car so rare and so potent that most people don't even know it existed. The 1970 Buick GSX Stage 2 wasn't just quick. It was a factory-built dragstrip destroyer disguised as a luxury car. While the standard GSX Stage 1 was impressive enough, the Stage 2 package took things to another level entirely. This dealer-installed option included special cylinder heads with larger valves, a more aggressive camshaft, tubular headers, and revised carburation. The result was a conservatively estimated 500-plus horsepower and over 540 pound-feet of torque from the 455 cubic inch V8, numbers that were simply unheard of from a factory-authorized setup in 1970. What made the Stage 2 package so special was that it came with Buick's blessing and didn't void the factory warranty, despite essentially transforming the engine into a race-ready power plant. The Stage 2 parts were developed by Buick engineers and offered through dealerships, making this a legitimate factory hot rod. Performance was nothing short of astounding. With slicks and proper tuning, the GSX Stage 2 could rip through the quarter mile in the high 11-second range at over 115 miles per hour, performance that would embarrass many modern sports cars. The massive torque allowed the Stage 2 to pull from virtually any RPM in any gear, making it not just quick on the strip, but devastatingly effective on the street. The exact number of GSX Stage 2 cars built is unknown, as the option was installed at dealerships rather than the factory. But estimates suggest fewer than 50 were ever created. This extreme rarity, combined with the car's astonishing performance, has made the GSX Stage 2 one of the most legendary and valuable muscle cars of the era. What's perhaps most impressive about the GSX Stage 2 is that it delivered this performance while maintaining Buick's reputation for luxury and refinement. This wasn't just a stripped-down quarter-mile special. It was a fully equipped luxury performance car that happened to be able to hang with purpose-built drag racers. It represented the ultimate expression of Buick's performance philosophy, sophisticated brutality. Number 4. 1969/1970 Ford Mustang Boss 429. At number 4 on our countdown is a car that was essentially a NASCAR engine with a Mustang wrapped around it. The 1969/1970 Ford Mustang Boss 429 wasn't just quick. It was Ford's nuclear option in the horsepower wars of the era. The Boss 429 was created for one primary purpose: to homologate Ford's new 429 cubic-inch semi-Hemi engine for NASCAR competition. The rules required Ford to install this race-developed engine in at least 500 production cars, and the Mustang was chosen as the vessel. The Boss 429 engine was a masterpiece of engineering, featuring aluminum cylinder heads with massive crescent-shaped combustion chambers, a forged steel crankshaft, 4-bolt main bearings, and forged aluminum pistons. Though officially rated at 375 horsepower, the actual output was closer to 500 horsepower in stock form, with potential for much more with minor modifications. Getting this massive engine into the Mustang's engine bay required extensive modifications. Carcraft, Ford's outside specialty contractor, had to relocate the shock towers, widen the track of the front end, and make numerous other changes to accommodate the 429's massive width. In stock form, the Boss 429 could hit 60 miles per hour in just 5.3 seconds and run the quarter mile in 12.3 seconds at 112 miles per hour. Impressive numbers for a street-legal production car carrying full emissions equipment. With slicks and some tuning, the Boss 429 was capable of mid-11-second quarter-mile times, territory few production cars of any era could touch. Ford built 859 Boss 429 Mustangs in 1969 and another 499 in 1970, making this one of the rarest and most valuable Mustangs ever produced. The car's racing pedigree, extreme performance potential, and limited production have made it a holy grail for Ford collectors, with pristine examples fetching well over $300,000 at auction. What makes the Boss 429 Mustang so special is that it represents the purest form of the muscle car ethos, stuffing the largest, most powerful engine possible into a relatively small car. Consequences be damned. It wasn't about balance or handling. It was about raw, unbridled power in its most potent form. Number 3. 1973 to 1974 Pontiac Firebird SD 455 Super Duty. Breaking into our top 3 is perhaps the most impressive muscle car of the mid-1970s. The Pontiac Firebird SD 455 Super Duty. This car wasn't just quick for 1973 to 74. It was a genuine performance miracle that somehow escaped the stranglehold of emissions regulations and fuel economy concerns. The Super Duty 455 engine was Pontiac's last hurrah for the original muscle car era, and they made it count. This wasn't just a standard 455 with a fancy name. It was essentially a race engine for the street, featuring unique 4-bolt main bearing caps, special forged rods and pistons, a forged crankshaft, high-flow round-port cylinder heads, and an aluminum intake manifold. Though officially rated at just 290 horsepower for 1973 and 290 for 1974, the real output was closer to 370 to 380 horsepower. What made this engine special wasn't just peak power, but its tractability and torque, a mammoth 415 pound-feet, available at just 3,600 RPM. In an era when most muscle cars had been neutered by low compression ratios and primitive emissions equipment, the SD 455 Firebird could still hit 60 miles per hour in just 5.4 seconds and demolish the quarter mile in 12.4 seconds at 114 miles per hour. These weren't just impressive numbers for 1973 to 74. They were numbers that could embarrass many performance cars built 20 to 30 years later. Pontiac built just 252 SD 455 Firebirds for 1973 and a mere 943 for 1974, making this one of the rarest muscle cars of the 1970s. The car's combination of stunning performance, limited production, and status as the last true Super Duty Pontiac has made it one of the most collectible muscle cars of the era. What makes the SD455 Firebird truly special is that it existed at all. By 1973 to 74, most manufacturers had abandoned serious performance in favor of fuel economy and emissions compliance. The fact that Pontiac's engineers were able to sneak this fire-breathing monster past the corporate bean counters and government regulators is nothing short of miraculous. It wasn't just a muscle car. It was an act of defiance against the changing times. Number 2. 1971. Plymouth Hemi Cuda. Our runner-up is automotive royalty, the 1971 Plymouth Hemi Cuda. This wasn't just a muscle car. It was the perfect storm of outrageous styling, limitless performance, and extreme rarity that has made it one of the most valuable American cars ever built. At its heart was the legendary 426 Hemi 5.8, nicknamed the Elephant for both its size and power. In its final year of production, the Street Hemi was officially rated at 425 horsepower, but actual output was closer to 470 to 480 horsepower. With 490 pound-feet of torque and that distinctive Hemi sound, this engine turned the already aggressive Cuda into something that struck fear into the hearts of competitors. The performance numbers were staggering. With a skilled driver in the right setup, the Hemi Cuda could hit 60 miles per hour in just 5.6 seconds and blitz through the quarter mile in 12.1 seconds at 117 miles per hour. With slicks and minor tuning, 11-second passes were well within reach, territory few production cars could touch, even decades later. What made the 71 model special was its combination of performance and styling. The 1971 redesign gave the Cuda a more aggressive appearance, with a wider grille, 4 headlights, and that distinctive cheese grater rear valance. Add in the shaker hood scoop, bold graphics, and high-impact colors like Tor Red, Sassy Grass Green, and Violet, and you had a car that looked as fast as it was. Plymouth built only 115 Hemi Cudas for 1971, and of those, just 59 were equipped with the 4-speed manual transmission. This extreme rarity, combined with the car's legendary performance and distinctive styling, has made the 71 Hemi Cuda one of the most valuable muscle cars ever. Pristine examples, particularly convertibles, have sold for millions at auction. The 1971 Hemi Cuda represented the pinnacle of Mopar muscle, the perfect blend of outrageous styling, uncompromising performance, and limited production that defines automotive legend. In a universe where muscle cars were kings, the Hemi Cuda was emperor. Number 1. 1969/1970. Dodge Charger Daytona and Plymouth Superbird. Taking the crown as the quickest muscle car of the 1970s is technically a tie. The aerodynamic twins that rewrote the rulebook on both the NASCAR oval and the street. The 1969 Dodge Charger Daytona and its 1970 sibling, the Plymouth Superbird. These weren't just muscle cars. They were science experiments on wheels, purpose-built to dominate NASCAR superspeedways with revolutionary aerodynamic features. The massive 23-inch tall rear wing, the pointed nose cone extending 18 inches beyond the normal bodywork, and the flush-mounted rear window weren't styling flourishes. They were functional elements that transformed these cars into 200M missiles. Both cars came with 2 engine options. The 440 cubic inch V8, either with a single 4-barrel carburetor, or the triple carb 6-pack setup, and the legendary 426 Hemi. In Hemi form, these winged warriors produced 425 horsepower officially, but the actual figure was north of 470 horsepower. The aerodynamic advantages combined with this raw power created performance that was simply untouchable in the era. On the street, A Hemi Daytona or Superbird could hit 60 miles per hour in just 5.5 seconds and demolish the quarter mile in 13.0 seconds at 108 miles per hour. But where these cars truly shined was at high speed. They were factory-built to exceed 200 miles per hour on NASCAR's high-banked ovals, a speed that required extreme engineering and testing to achieve safely. Dodge built only 503 Charger Daytonas in 1969, while Plymouth produced 1,935 Superbirds in 1970. The Hemi engine was installed in just 70 Daytonas and 135 Superbirds, making these configurations among the rarest and most valuable muscle cars ever built. What makes these winged warriors truly special is that they represent the absolute pinnacle of no-compromise performance engineering from the original muscle car era. These weren't just powerful street cars. They were essentially race cars with license plates, the closest thing to a NASCAR stocker that the average person could buy and drive on the street. The aerodynamic advances pioneered by the Daytona and Superbird were so effective that NASCAR was forced to change its rules to effectively ban them. By 1971, regulations required these aero cars to carry a massive weight penalty, making them uncompetitive overnight. It wasn't just a rule change. It was an admission that Chrysler's engineers had simply outsmarted the competition. On the street, these cars were equally revolutionary. Nothing looked like them, nothing performed like them, and nothing attracted attention like them. They were rolling sculptures that combined art and science in equal measure, proving that aerodynamics could be just as important as horsepower when it came to ultimate performance. Today, original Daytonas and Superbirds command prices that can exceed $1 million for Hemi-equipped examples in pristine condition. They aren't just collector cars, they're pieces of American automotive history, representing the absolute peak of the muscle car arms race before emissions regulations, insurance penalties, and the fuel crisis changed everything. The Daytona and Superbird stand as the ultimate expression of an era when American manufacturers were willing to build outrageous, impractical, rule-bending machines in the pursuit of both racing glory and street credibility. They weren't just the quickest muscle cars of the 1970s. They were perhaps the purest embodiments of the muscle car ethos ever created. These 15 machines proved American performance didn't die in the 1970s. They stood defiant against rising insurance rates, emissions regulations, and the looming fuel crisis, rolling monuments to an era when speed trumped practicality. Built in numbers often measured in hundreds rather than thousands, they weren't just cars. They were legends in their time that have only grown more mythical with each passing decade. Which of these would you most want in your garage? Comment below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Until next time, keep those carburetors tuned and those tires smoking.